Hello everyone, I am Sacrobolic, your envoy of help. Welcome to Shouting Through the Chorus, and I love Negima. Now, I'd like to tell you how much I love Negima. In fact, I had the idea for an entire retrospective where I'd get in-depth with the series, analyzing its themes, motifs, characters, and plots, and I wanted to release this in time for the UQ Holder anime. But as I was making up the script, I realized that at my current work rate, there was absolutely no way I was going to get these videos out in time. So instead I decided to make this video, where I'd compress the plot of Negima into one video so people could go into UQ Holder with the information they might need, or maybe just as a refresher. Obviously, due to the nature of this video, there will be massive Negima spoilers. Now, as not having enough time was the major reason I made this video, I'm about to give you a lot of information in a very short amount of time, so get ready to hit the ground running. Ready, set, go. So to start at the beginning, we have to start with the beginning. So, in 600 BC, in the Age of Gods, the Mage of the Beginning, the God of Creation, or the Life Maker, was born. At an unknown point in time, early BC to AD, early 11th century, the 1400s, or the turn of the 1900s, we are giving wildly conflicting information on this, the Life Maker created another world as a paradise for those being driven off of Earth. Why people were being driven off of Earth isn't stated, but I suspect this refers to mages during the witch hunts. Now in Negima, in order to create another world, it has to be layered on top of a real location. So the Life Maker created this world on top of the planet Mars, as well as many of the people, plants, and animals on it. This world, called Mundus Magicus, the magical world, or inverse Mars, had a population of 1.2 billion at the start of the series. The Life Maker's daughter, Amater, became the first queen of Ostia, and statues were built of her and the brave warrior that protected her. These statues acted as the inspiration for the Pactio system, where a partnership is formed between a mage and another person, and the mage would lend magical power to their partner to act as their shield. In 1400s France, during the 100 Years' War, a young girl was taken in by the Life Maker as her ward. This young girl's name was Evangeline A.K. McDowell. Now, we'll get more into what the K in her name stands for in the retrospective proper, but as this is just meant to get you into UQ Holder, for our purposes her name is Evangeline Athanasia Kitty McDowell, or Eva for short. Now, Eva had a great life as the ward of the Life Maker and received anything she wanted, until on her 10th birthday, when she was turned into a vampire by the Life Maker and was forced to flee the castle. Now, the exact times and orders of the next three events aren't given, so I'll just give them in the order I think they may have occurred in. Number 1, Eva invents a magical spell similar to the Life Maker's power called Magia Arabia. Magia Arabia allowed her to absorb spells and magical energy to supplement her, at the time, weak powers. Number 2, she tracked down and killed the Life Maker, although as we'll address shortly, the Life Maker is bad at staying dead. And number 3, Eva went on a rampage, killing anyone who came after her and accrued a $6 million bounty, the largest bounty anyone has ever held in Negima history. Over time, Eva faded into legend, becoming the equivalent to the magical boogeyman, with many believing she was just a story to scare children into behaving. Now back to the magical world, where the home of a young boy is destroyed and he makes his debut as a slave gladiator in 1963. The boy would continue to fight in the arena until he bought his freedom, eventually emerging as the god of gladiators, the man of the thousand blades, the legendary mercenary swordsman, Jack Rockin. Then in 1970, in a small Welsh mountain village, Naji Springfield is born, and in 1980, at 10 years old, Naji wins the Mahora Budokai martial arts tournament. By this point, the magical energy sustaining the magical world began to run out, and if it were to run out fully, the magical world would disappear, dropping any humans in it onto the Martian landscape. So, to counter this, the Life Maker, remember I said she was bad at dying, created a new plan, Cosmo Entelekia, the perfect world. The plan involved taking humanity, giving them an immortal body, and taking them physically into an illusionary world where they would live forever at the time where they would be happiest, in the timeline they would be happiest in. The Life Maker formed a group numbering in the hundreds of thousands named after the plan, comprised of beings of her own creation called dolls, mafia members, weapons dealers, and various high-ranking officials, and infiltrated every aspect of the world's ruling structure. Under her direction, Cosmo Entelekia began to pressure the Hellas Empire into border conflicts with their neighbors, using the tensions created 80 years ago when humanity rediscovered the magical world. Princess Eureka and Archaea Anthofutia of Vespertatia began to work as a mediator between the countries, but unknown to her at the time was that both of her parents were members of Cosmo and Telekia, with her father, the king, being a puppet installed by them, and her mother being a disciple of the Life Maker. The border skirmishes continued to intensify until the Hellas Empire began to invade the northern countries in earnest, and attempted to retake the capital of Vespertatia, the city of 1,000 towers, Ostia. With that, the Bellum Schismaticum War, or the Great War, had begun. With few military options, Ostia was forced to dust off their most powerful weapon, the Imperial Princess of Twilight, Azuna Vesperina Theontanasia and Thofutia. Asuna's power is said to be on par with the Life Maker herself, as well as the only thing that can defeat her permanently. It allows her to nullify magic and chi, to destroy magical artifacts, dispel illusions, return summoned creatures back where they came from, as well as create, destroy, and rewrite the magical world. However, the Hellas Empire was pushed back not by Asuna, but by a small group of elite warriors called Alarubra. In response, in the year 1982, the Hellas Empire hired mercenary Jack Rockin to deal with Alarubra. At the time, Alarubra had 4 members: the ancient ghost and gravity mage Alberio Imma, or Al, who insists on being called Colonel Sanders for some reason, Master Shinmei swordsman Ishin Konoe, the centuries-old yokai Zect Filius, who acted as the master to 12-year-old Naji Springfield. After a 13-hour battle, Naji and Rockin fought to a standstill, and sometime after, Rockin became an official member of Alarubra, and after acting as reinforcements during the Battle of the Great Bridge, Alarubra began to turn the war around. That was when Naji began to be called the Man of 1,000 Spells and the Thousand Master. Later, they would be joined by Gato Kagura Vandenberg and his disciple Takamichi T. Takahata, who introduced them to Senator McGill of Megalomacembria and Princess Eureka, who came to them for help. It is then they learned of and began to investigate Cosmo and Telekia, and learned that the second in command of Megalomacembria, the Conso Ahenes, was a member of Cosmo and Telekia. Alarubra acquired proof of Cosmo and Telekia manipulating all sides. Eureka took the proof to the third imperial princess of the Hellas Empire, Theodora, Theo for short. And Alarubra took the proof to Senator McGill so that it could be turned over to the leader of Megalomacembria, the Praetor. However, Cosmo and Telekia intercepted the princesses, and Senator McGill was killed and replaced with one of the Life Maker's dolls, Primum, the Avernicus of Earth. Primum, masquerading as McGill, claimed Alarubra tried to assassinate him and turned the whole world against them. Alarubra rescued Eureka and Theo from the Noctis Labyrinthus, and together they began their counterattack, proving Cosmo and Telekia's involvement in the conflict and gathering allies. This culminated in Cosmo and Telekia trying to use Asuna's power to destroy the magical world, and Alarubra and its allies making a final push against Cosmo and Telekia's base, the Gravekeeper's Palace. But before the final battle, Eureka staged a coup and overthrew her father to become Queen of Vespertatia. Alarubra managed to defeat the bulk of Cosmo and Telekia's forces, including Primum, and their general Dynamis, who became the only survivor of this by playing dead. When they encountered the Life Maker, who almost killed all of them with her first attack, Alarubra's only remaining fighters, Naji and Zact, teamed up and managed to kill her, but once the Life Maker was killed, she then possessed Zact and retreated. The combined forces of Vespertatia, Megalomacembria, Hellas, and Ariadne managed to seal Asuna's full power, and in 1983, the Great War ended, and Naji Springfield was certified as a Magister Magi by Megalomacembria. Asuna's power took its toll, however, and her magical nullification caused Ostia, capital of Vespertatia, the city of 1,000 towers, to fall from the sky. Eureka was then captured by the Megalomacembrian Senate and framed for collaborating with Cosmo and Telekia, as well as killing her father, destroying her country, and pushing through the slavery law, the Death Collar Act, and sentenced to 2 years in prison, followed by execution. During her imprisonment, Eureka came to be known as the Queen of Calamity. Then, in 1985, Queen Eureka and Archaea and Thofutia was taken to the Cerberus Ravine, where neither magic nor chi could be used, by 2 warships and 3,000 elite soldiers, and was executed. Officially. Unofficially, Alarubra crashed the execution and saved her, with Naji and Eureka getting engaged as they flew off. Afterwards, the members of Alarubra present became wanted criminals by Megalomacembria. Shortly after, in Japan, the two-faced, four-armed giant ogre Ryumin Sukuna no Kami went on a rampage and was sealed by Naji, Arika, Ishin, and the then leader of the Kansai Magic Association. Then, in 1988, Naji encountered Eva, and she developed a crush on him after he saved her from falling off a cliff. She followed him all the way to Japan, where he lured her into a pit filled with garlic and leeks, and placed the school hell curse on her, sealing her powers and forcing her to attend middle school at Mahora Academy with Gato's apprentice Takamichi. In 1991, the Life Maker, now inhabiting Zekt's body, was back at it again and created multiple dolls, including Secundum, the Avernicus of Wind, Ni, the second Fire Atur, Septem Decim, the 17th Water Adid, and most importantly, Tertium, the second Avernicus of Earth, who she created without loyalty being programmed into him or the ability to create unglazed pottery or sing. Life Maker sent the remnants of Cosmo Entelequia to regions where the magic had started to thin to alleviate the collapse of the magical world. When Tertium glitched out while flying, he landed in a village of people who could read all of a person's thoughts through skin contact, like Aro from Twilight, if anyone watching this has ever actually read that. There he met Luna, better known as Shiori, and her older sister, and developed feelings for her. Tertium confronted the Life Maker with his concerns, and the Life Maker informed him of his lack of programming. When he returned to the village, he found it in flames with most of its inhabitants dead, because in Negima, people go out of their way to kill mind readers. But Luna and her older sister were still alive. That was until Sungundam arrived and killed Luna's sister, and when he turned his attention to Luna herself, Tertium killed him. Finally, in a small Welsh mountain village on May 2nd, 1993, Neji Springfield is born to parents Naji Springfield and Arika Anarchia and Thofusia. Shortly after, Naji finds the Life Maker and kills her new body, and goes missing in Istanbul, presumably to be sealed underneath Banto, the world tree of Mahora, by Al, now that the Life Maker was possessing him. Afterwards, Gatu Kagura Vindenburg contracts a fatal case of being a mentor in a fantasy series syndrome and dies, and the Imperial Princess of Twilight, Asuna, Vesperina, Theontanasia, and Thofusia, has her powers, as well as her memories of the magical world, Alarubra, and magic sealed, and begins to attend Mahora Academy under the assumed identity of Asuna Kagurazaka. There she meets her best friend and future heir to the Yukihiro conglomerate, Ayaka Yukihiro. 1997, the Megalomycembrian Senate sent a horde of demons led by Graf Wilhelm Josef von Hermann to Neji's village, burning it down, turning most of the occupants to stone, and blowing off his cousin Nakane's Springfield's legs. Neji himself is almost killed, but he's saved by Naji, who appears out of nowhere, saves him, and kills the demons. He then takes Neji and Nakane to safety and presents Neji with his wand before flying off to be resealed under the World Tree. Then in 2001, Shaolin Shen arrives at Mahora Academy in an association with Satomi Nakase and Eva, who's still forced to attend Mahora Junior High as part of her curse. The three begin to find ways to fuse magic and technology, catapulting magic tech 100 years into the future and creating the android Chachimaru Karakuri. That brings us to 2002 in the Meridiana School of Magic in Pembroke, Wales, where Neji Springfield graduates at the top of his class, also known as the first page of the first chapter of Negima. Neji is chosen by the spirits to continue his studies as a teacher in Mahora Academy, and after time he's made the official teacher of Class 3A, a class containing Saya Ayasaka, a ghost that was murdered at the school during World War II, Yue Aisa, who we'll get to, the Imperial Princess of Twilight, still operating under her assumed identity of Asuna Kagurazaka, the Magitech android Chachimaru Karakuri, martial arts master Ku Fei, Ishin's daughter Konika Konoe, Konika's bodyguard Shinmei swordsman and half-bird demon Satsuna Sakurazaki, half-demon and partner to a former Magister Magi from Bells of the Four-Scale Note, Mana Arcana, also called Mana Tatsumiya, Shaolin Shen, who we'll get to, Chizuru Nabe, the daughter of the head of Nabe Industries, Satome Hakase, who I've mentioned, the most popular idol on the internet, Chu, real name Chisame Hasegawa, Evangeline A.K. McDowell, who is still in middle school due to her curse, Nodoka Miyazaki, who we'll get to, Ayaki Yukihiro, who I've mentioned, and Zazie Rainy Day, the second princess of the demon world, which is on Venus, by the way. On his first day of teaching, Asuna learns about magic from Neji, though this does not restore her memories. With Neji so close to Eva, sees this as an opportunity to break her curse by draining all of his blood. This is when the elf ermine Albert Camo, appears and starts pushing Neji to get a partner. Eva learns that there's a technological layer to her power dampening, and using Chachimaru manages to bring down the seal at the same time as a scheduled blackout. During the battle against Eva, Neji and Asuna form a pactio, and due to the power coming back on early, Eva is defeated. Eva, upon learning Neji is searching for his father, points him to his father's workshop in Kyoto, so Neji arranges a field trip there under the guise of diplomatic mission to the Kansai Magic Association. There they come into conflict with Chigusa Amagasaki, the leader of a splinter group containing half-dog demon Kotaro Inugami, Shinmei swordsman Sugiyome Iwai, and Tertium, now operating under the name Fate Avernicus, that were trying to force Western mages out of Japan. They kidnap Konica and use her Latin magical ability to unseal Ryumin Sakuna no Kami. However, due to a loophole in the school hell curse, Eva arrives, forces Fate to retreat, and kills the Ryumin Sakuna no Kami in one hit because at full power, she's just that powerful. After the field trip, Neji decides he's too weak and apprentices himself to Eva for magic and Kufei for martial arts. Fate then sends Graf Wilhelm Josef von Hermann to scout Mahora Academy and tests Neji's abilities. Neji then teams up with face-turned Kotaro, who came to Mahora to warn him, and together they defeat the demon. Afterwards, the 78th annual Mahora Festival begins, and the magic teachers and some of the stronger, more cooperative magic students are informed of the more dangerous effects of the magical power that will be flowing out of the World Tree. Neji protects Chao from the other magic teachers when she eavesdrops on the meeting, and says he'll take responsibility for her actions. In thanks, she gives him a time machine that will only work with the magic flowing out of the World Tree. Neji uses the time machine so he'll have time to visit all of his students during the festival, and Chao buys up all of the small-scale martial arts tournaments being held and reforms the Mahora Budokai Martial Arts Tournament. Neji, Kotaro, Asuna, Setsuna, Ku, Mana, Eva, and Takamichi all fight in it, as does Alberio Imma under the name Colonel Sanders. Against Neji in the finals, Al uses his Pactio artifact, the Book of Life, to duplicate Naji's personality and abilities, and with it delivers Naji's last testament to Neji and Eva. After, Chao reveals that she is Neji's descendant from 100 years in the future, and she's come back to the past to prevent the tragedies that will occur after the magical world's collapse by revealing magic to the world. Neji and his group take advantage of Eva's time-distorting resort to plan their next move, but this turned out to be part of Chao's plan. The time machine she gave Neji activates, and they're all sent a week into the future, after Chao had already put her plan into motion. With that, Chao won, magic was revealed to the world, Neji was captured by the magic teachers, and was to be turned into an ermine for 6 months, never to see his students again, and to have his dream die. Bad ending achieved. But his team worked together and managed to free him, and together they traveled to the center of the World Tree and used the lingering magic to jump a week into the past, where they informed the magic teachers of Chao's plans, and armed the students of Mahora, using them to combat Chao's forces under the guise of being the main event of the festival. At the end, Neji confronts Chao and defeats her. Afterward, Chao returns to her own time, 100 years in the future. Neji and the group meet up with Al, who confirms Naji is still alive, and they decide to go to the magical world to search for clues. The group briefly trains with Eva to prepare, who suggests the group call itself Ala Alba, taking its name from Naji's group Ala Rubra. Ala Alba heads to the magical world, followed by other 3A students that didn't know about magic, and within minutes of arriving in the magical world are almost wiped out by the remnants of Cosmo Intellectia, now led by Fate. The Ala Alba members and other 3A students are then teleported away from each other, and Cosmo Intellectia destroyed all of the gates to the real world, also called the Old World or Mundus Vetus, and blamed Ala Alba. The Ala Alba members began to find each other, but when they tracked down the other 3A students, they find out that 3 of them had sold themselves into slavery in order to pay for medicine for Izumi, who had contracted some disease that was killing her. In response, Neji and Kotaro disguise themselves to be older and become gladiators, operating under fake names. Neji decides to fight under the name Nachi Springfield, drawing the attention of everyone, including the leaders of several countries and Ala Rubra member Jack Rockin, who arranges to have his old drinking buddy Kagetaro of Bosporus test Neji's abilities. After losing to Kagetaro, Neji goes to Jack Rockin for guidance, who gifts him with a scroll he'd won off Eva in a bet years ago, containing an original spell of hers, Magia Arabia. Neji chooses to learn Magia Arabia, but as it turns out, it wasn't a spell made for mortals, and it begins to eat away at his body, mind, and soul. Neji then has a surprise meeting with Fate, who uses it as an opportunity to kidnap Asuna and switch her out with Luna in disguise. While in captivity, Fate unseals Asuna's powers and memories. Neji and Kotaro, meanwhile, are on track to earn enough money to free his students from slavery when Kagetaro and Jack Raken enter the tournament against them. The two of them begin training to defeat Raken and Kagetaro, and during this training, Neji invents two important spells. Thunder in Heaven Great Vigor, a Magia Arabia armament that allows Neji to temporarily assume the form of lightning, but he can't react at that speed and has to decide his destination beforehand. And Thunder in Heaven Great Vigor 2, that has none of those weaknesses and allows him to exist in a constant lightning form, making him immune to most attacks. Then, in what might be my favorite fight in any manga, Neji and Kotaro fight Raken and Kagetaro to a draw, and as a reward, Raken gives Neji his half of the prize money to free his students from slavery. Ala Alba then meets another one of their members, Yue, who joined the Ariadne War Maidens and now has amnesia and are confronted by former Ala Rubra member, Ishin's disciple, Megalomacembrian Senator, and Governor General of New Ostia, Kurt Gödel, who invites Ala Alba to the Government General Ball, where he promises to explain everything to Neji. Then, after an offhanded comment by Natsumi, Kotaro's partner and one of the girls who was sold into slavery, Neji figures out that the last secret of the magical world, that it's Mars. Yeah, I kind of gave you every plot twist right up front, so you aren't really going to be surprised by anything anymore. Anyway, so Kurt tells Neji everything I already told you, then Cosmo Entelechia attacks and goes on a murder spree, killing multiple characters, including Fate personally killing Jack Raken. Kind of. He's also bad at dying, though, for different reasons. Then, in one of the most badass moments in the series, Nodoka goes one-on-one with Cosmo Entelechia General Dynamis, steals his Grandmaster Key, letting her use the Life Maker's power, and uses her mind-reading powers she's had since Kyoto, but I'm just now mentioning, to learn Cosmo Entelechia's plan. They then fly to New Ostia to prevent Cosmo Entelechia from trying to use Asuna's power to destroy the magical world, and Ala Alba and its allies make a final push against Cosmo Entelechia's base, the Gravekeeper's Palace. During their attack, however, Dynamis fatally wounds Neji, and Magia Arabia fully takes over, putting him into a magical coma. The other Ala Alba members do succeed in rescuing Asuna, Neji's childhood friend Anya, taking the Grandmaster Key, which is said to be on par with the Life Maker herself, and even seemingly beat Fate. However, before they get there, Dynamis activated three other dolls. Quartium, the Avernicus of Fire, Quintum, the second Avernicus of Wind, and Sextum, the Avernicus of Water. Fate survived, however, and wasn't willing to allow the other dolls to take his rivals away. At the same time, Neji emerges from his coma. Now, what's worth noting is that from this point on, Neji is no longer human. He's now an immortal monster. Fate and Neji defeat the other dolls and begin their final battle. As soon as ritual had already started, however, and the magical world began to collapse. Meanwhile, the final gate to the real world connects the Gravekeeper's Palace to Banto, the World Tree of Mahora, freeing the Life Maker in the process. With the help of Asuna and Eva temporarily regaining much of her power due to the influx of magic, the dolls were killed, the Life Maker was banished, and the collapse of the magical world was stopped, with all who were killed by the collapse or the Life Maker's power restored. Afterward, Neji teamed up with Fate, who later admitted to having romantic feelings for him, Asuna, Ayaka, and Chizuru, to enact his plan of preventing the collapse of the magical world by increasing the amount of magic in the area it's layered over. They planned to do that by building a space elevator and colonizing Mars. Ayaka formed a pact deal with Neji that would allow her to meet with anyone. Period. And they formed the International Solar System Development Association, or ISSDA, with Neji as its first CEO. However, in order to buy time for the plan to work, Asuna had to return to the magical world to act as a pillar to keep it from collapsing and sleep for 100 years. In 2023, Neji leaves a message for Asuna for when she wakes up, telling her everything is on schedule and the elevator should be open to the public in 5 years. Then, on June 12th, 2065, Neji Springfield dies. We then come to 2086, where technically I can stop, because this was just supposed to get you to UQ Holder, and this is the year UQ Holder starts, the timeline it starts in. But since we're right at the end, I might as well continue. Stop here if you don't want to know what the end of Negima tells you about how its sequel, UQ Holder, will end. Okay, so in the early 22nd century, the Mars War of Independence breaks out and delays Asuna's awakening by 30 years. In 2104, Ayaka Yukihiro dies in the year Asuna would have awoken had the war not occurred. Finally, in 2135, Asuna wakes up to find Neji's plan complete and presumably successful, but the vast majority of her classmates dead. She is then greeted by two of the only people who would conceivably be around in 130 years, Eva and Chao. The three of them then use Chao's time machine to travel back to the moments after Asuna left for her slumber and reunite Asuna with her classmates. Chao goes back to her own time to fix those problems, and Eva declares she's going to go find herself an extra Naji in a different timeline. After that, everyone works together, and it all ends happily, except Maki, who becomes a gym teacher. Happy ending achieved. So, if this was the happy ending and Chao's was the bad ending, what's UQ Holder's ending called? And what happened after Asuna returned? Well, you'll just have to watch and or read UQ Holder to find out. So that takes us to the end of the video, and even writing this script took a lot of time, but I hope you liked it. I definitely left a lot out, and there were some major characters I didn't even mention, and some I barely addressed. So this isn't an actual substitute for reading Negima, but will at least let you know what's going on in UQ Holder and understand some callbacks. I think what this video is worst at is conveying character relationships. I still plan to make the retrospective proper, I just made this in a pinch, and I plan to use this channel to talk about other anime and manga, and not just the works of Ken Akamatsu in the future. Feel free to leave any questions, comments, or concerns in the comment section, and I'll try to answer them as best I can. Anyway, until next time, I've been Sacrabolic, your envoy of hope, and this has been Shouting Through the Chorus. I'll see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.